Welcome back to the broadcast dedicated to dissecting the classified documents that reveal how intelligence agencies transcend conventional technological boundaries by looking towards the natural world for the ultimate covert advantage. Today, we abandon human agents and synthetic consciousness to focus on a subject that surrounds us daily, yet remains largely overlooked: the vast interconnected world of plant life. We address the chilling fact that the U.S. intelligence explored the possibility of turning ordinary flora into sophisticated surveillance and data collection platforms. We are analyzing the CIA's involvement in accelerated evolution and directed genetic modification, treating plant DNA not as a fixed blueprint, but as a biological medium for encoding intelligence functions. Our primary evidence is the declassified file CIA-RDP80-01042A002500020002-3. This highly unusual report is titled, quote, Directed Genetic Modification for Sensor Applications, end quote. It confirms that analytical and biological resources were tasked with evaluating the scientific challenges of manipulating plant genetics to install functions that are typically reserved for silicone and software. The context here is the ultimate covert intelligence network. If an intelligence service can create a biological sensor that blends seamlessly into any natural or urban environment, it solves the fundamental problem of surveillance detection. The asset is self-sustaining, cheap to produce, and impossible to trace back to the manufacturing source. The file's existence confirms that the distinction between a natural object and a technological asset was viewed as a strategic vulnerability requiring correction through synthetic biology. The analysis focuses on two primary areas. One, directed mutation to achieve rapid evolutionary leaps, and two, the integration of sensor functions into the plant's metabolic and reproductive structures. Let's drill down into the clinical details of the biological challenge documented in this file. The analysts weren't interested in slow natural selection. They demanded directed, rapid, weaponized evolution. The file required an intense focus on accelerated morphological and genetic mutation. This involves the ability to use chemical, radiological, or high-frequency electromagnetic means to drastically increase the mutation rate of plant seeds or tissue, forcing a generation's worth of evolutionary change within weeks. The goal was to rapidly select for traits that facilitated intelligence gathering, such as heightened sensitivity to specific atmospheric chemicals or electromagnetic fields. The file documents the theoretical framework for biointegration of sensor function. This is the stunning part. Attempting to encode data collections functions like measuring trace chemical signatures of specific explosives or decoding narrowband radio frequencies directly into the plant's metabolic process. The plant essentially becomes a computer. The document includes technical specifications, though heavily redacted, discussing the necessary data retrieval mechanism. If a plant is a sensor, how is the data extracted? This points to non-conventional means, likely requiring specialized field equipment to decode complex biochemical responses or energy signatures emitted by the modified flora. We must now examine the primary evidence, the agency's assessment of the technological viability. This is a critical excerpt regarding the confirmation that the effort was a serious technological pursuit. Quote, experimental modification demonstrates that specific botanical structures possess the metabolic capacity to process and store complex environmental data, significantly reducing the size and detectability profile required for traditional sensor hardware. End quote. Here is another quote from a section discussing field deployment. And if you missed it, that quote is acknowledging that, yes, indeed, they were able to turn a plant into a computer or a spy. But here we go. This is again from a section discussing field deployment. A network of modified flora could be instantaneously deployed across wide operational areas, providing real-time environmental and chemical surveillance without risk of hardware failure or logistical supply chain compromise. End quote. This is the true meaning of the file. It states that nature itself can be weaponized. The agency saw an opportunity to utilize the inherent sustainability and ubiquity of plant life to create an intelligence network that is literally everywhere, self-repairing and completely camouflaged. The focus shifted from can we build a small sensor to can we grow an invisible sensor? We now address the chilling operational implications of this file, the deployment of the botanical agent in strategic espionage. The most extensive redactions occur in the section titled Specific Genetic Targets and Signal Encoding, as well as in containment and reversibility protocols. This suggests detailed discussions around which specific plant species proved most viable for modification and the highly sensitive methods used to encode and retrieve the intelligence signal. Why redact containment protocols? Because the unintentional spread of genetically modified surveillance-capable plant life represents an ecological catastrophe and a massive security leak. The agency was forced to consider the risk of their modified organisms contaminating the natural biosphere. The concept discussed is the creation of biocommunication relays. The plant doesn't just collect data, it potentially processes it and transmits it through a modified metabolic function, perhaps by emitting specific low-level chemical or electromagnetic signatures undetectable by standard equipment. The operational utility is terrifyingly simple. A foreign diplomat's garden, a military base perimeter, or a specific region of interest becomes a living, recording listening post. The agent requires no training, demands no compensation, and is simply recycled into the ground when the mission is complete. The strategic weaponization of this research is clear. It is a ubiquitous disposable intelligence weapon. A state possessing this capability gains access to permanent undetectable surveillance across every natural environment on Earth. It is the ultimate fusion of life science and intelligence objectives, yielding a covert infrastructure that is literally organic. We conclude our analysis of this document. The existence and scope of the research confirm that U.S. intelligence treated the genetic manipulation of flora for intelligence purposes as an actionable, high-priority strategic objective and did indeed succeed at botanical espionage. The implication is that analysis moved into the sphere of applied botany and genetics, seeking to harness the planetary ecosystems for covert intelligence gathering. This research represents an unprecedented integration of life and technology in the pursuit of absolute strategic advantage. If this documented truth has opened your mind to the technological boundaries explored by those in power, we require your continued support. First, like this episode and leave us a detailed 5-star review wherever you listen. This is how the analysis cuts through the static of conventional thought. Second, share this episode with someone obsessed with genetics, botany, or ecological surveillance. We need more sharp minds analyzing these documented facts. Next, we're going to move from the external living world of plants to the complex, non-physical world of human energy fields and intentional influence. We will analyze the CIA's classified research into bioenergetic warfare and remote influence. The agents attempt to project measurable, non-conventional energy to affect human thought and health at a distance without any ELF or electromagnetic hardware. For our next investigation, we will dissect the analysis within CIA document RDP80-00049R0001000020007-8, a file concerning quantifiable energy projection and non-contact alteration of biological systems. What specific human capabilities, often dismissed as psychic or spiritual, did the analyst attempt to isolate and scientifically replicate for operational use? What were the measured thresholds for affecting a target's cardiac rhythm or emotional state using only directed human intent? And how did they categorize the individuals found capable of training in these bioenergetic techniques? Tune in next time for Project Remote View, Bioenergetic Warfare and the Human Weapon. Until then, remember, maintain your vigilance, question the life around you, and keep your critical thinking sharp. I'll see you in the archives.